Hi and welcome to another solo war game. This week we're playing it in in association with Partizan in the Cloud, because the Partizan uh, show is obviously not going ahead this year, because this first one isn't going ahead anyway because of the COVID-19 situation. So I thought I'd jump on the bandwagon. Follow the hashtag Partizan in the Cloud. You'll be able to see some of the posts. This is obviously going to be a week later, this video, but I'll be playing this on the day itself, and I'll put this together with the photo AAR anyway afterwards. The game that I'm playing today, I'm also playing it in aid of a charity for Breaking Ground Heritage. They have a Just Giving page, which if you could just chuck a couple of quid their way would be great. They do a lot of great work for veterans through archaeology. I've worked with them for years now, and the success stories they've had with some of the veterans going on to get new vocational and life skills, and also just improve their well-being, their mental health well-being, and aid with their recovery. It's absolutely fantastic. I shall put a link in the description down below. Check that out. Like I say, just chuck up a couple of quid. It costs £3 to go into Partizan. Put £3 into Breaking Ground Heritage instead. Today's game is back to Malaya. This is set around the town of Kuantan, which was one of the British airfields, one of the forward airfields. It was defended by 22nd Brigade, and it was on the east coast of Malaya. It wasn't actually part of the Japanese attack. The Japanese were going to attack it by the sea, but that was cancelled and put off because of the success on the west coast. The 56th Infantry Regiment moved their way down to Kuantan and found that the 22nd Brigade were defending it. The 55th Brigade, who were meant to do the amphibious assaults, actually ended up coming down the road, and they took the brunt of the fighting against the 22nd Brigade. The British units that were there, one of them was the Royal Gwahali Rifles, and that's who we're looking at today. They got cut off by a Japanese attack down the Jabor Valley as they were trying to retreat back to Kuantan itself. And during that action, Lieutenant Colonel Cummings was trapped behind enemy lines with about 40 men, 40 Gwahalis, and they actually fought their way through Japanese roadblocks to join up with the rest of 22nd Brigade as they were moving out of the area. For his actions, his part in the action, Cummings actually won a VC as part of this, so pretty important action. I don't have any roadblocks, but I do have a lot of burning vehicles. You can see up and down the main road. It's a pretty simple setup, lots of jungle. The main road is blocked with vehicles, burning vehicles, so that's going to provide cover as well, so there's be no shooting straight up and down. I'm playing it with chain of command, and I'm playing against Zulu, and as I've said before in the old solo war games videos that I've done, sometimes you can just do a narrative of a game. You don't have to do a winner or a loser, and this is one of those. It's an example of that. The narrative here is for the Indians to try to get as many men off the top end of the table as possible. They're starting down there, and it's quite a long way. They're going to have to go quite a long way. The Japanese, there's about 40 or so Indian figures as well, which is about the right number that were in the actual retreat anyway, in the actual action. The Japanese have an unknown number of units, and they're just going to keep coming on, or depending on what the dice I roll, you know, they will act accordingly to that, and they will then put units onto the table or move the units that are already on table. They've got 4 jumping off points dotted around in the jungle itself. Their units will just start to come on their turns, and they activate from there on. So I don't know how many is going to turn up. The Indians don't know how many will turn up, and we don't know what, and they will just attack the best they can when they're on the table. So as I say, it's a bit of a narrative game. The Indians will win if they can get as many men as possible off this back end. So basically it's a case of trying to filter as many men out of that top end as possible. And obviously if Cummings himself survives, then that would also be great. And the Indian forces, just very quickly to tell you, it's made up of 6 sections, each with a junior leader. There's also 2 senior leaders, one of which is Cummings and one of which is one of his lieutenants, his adjutants, and each of the sections is just made up of riflemen and an LNG team. So it's very simple, very basic. It's a race against time, and the Japanese are basically just going to try to stop them. So film this. This should be an interesting and enjoyable little game. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and let's get on with it. Right, so first up, I've done the force morale for both. The Japanese have got 10, which is pretty high, quite good, but the Indians have actually got 11, so that is also good. As I said, this is probably not really a game that the force morale is going to come so much into it. If the Indians is reduced to 0, then game over anyway. And, you know, if the Japanese is also reduced to 0, then it will also be game over, but I can't really imagine these dropping particularly low. But we'll see how it goes. So the Indians are going to get the first turn, and they are rolling their 5 command dice. So let's see what we've got. Well, 2 6s, that's pretty good. That means that they retain the phase. That was a 1 and knocks it over. 5 is giving them automatically a chain of command dice, so that's useful as well. Chain of command points, so that's that done. The 1 and the 3, so that's either a section and a junior leader, or they can be combined into making a senior leader. So I think we'll probably will do that, and we'll get Cummings to order some of these units forward instead of splitting them up as much as possible. So let's get them moving. Using that activation, I turn it into a 4. Cummings has ordered 4 of his units to move forward, 3 of them on the road, managed to get a bit further forward. Not great dice rolling though from the Indians, they're stumbling, and the guys in the jungle, they basically just stood where they were. So that's been a great start. But now we're going to get the Guahalis, they get a second turn, they get their second phase, should I say, so we'll roll the dice for that and see what happens in this phase, see if we can get them moving further up that road. So we got a 5, so that's another chain of command points, so they're slowly building up, which is good. So we've got a 4, 2 3s and a 2, so that's senior leader, 2 junior leaders and a section. Unfortunately, I can't combine any of those because that would take it over 5, so we've got to use them as they are. So let's have a think about what they want to do. Right, okay, the Guahalis had their 2 phases, so it's now over to the Japanese in their first one, so we'll see what happens with this. Right, first of all, we've got a 5, so that is, we've got 2 5s, so straight up they've got a chain of command, 2 chain of command points. That might be useful because they might be able to bring on any unit to ambush at some point if they get a chain of command dice. They've also got a 4, which is a senior leader, a 2 and a 1, which may be combined either into a junior leader or it could be a section and a team. So we'll have a think about that and get some Japanese units on the board, I think. So what we've got here is the Japanese. I brought on a section under a junior leader, because that's really all I could afford. Didn't really want to bring on a senior leader at this point because they're still pretty sparse. Probably bring on a couple more units before that happens. And how I did this was I randomised which jumping off point they were going to come out at. So I've got 4, these 1, 2, 3, 4. I rolled a d6 and just went through them, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5 and the 6 were the jumping off points that were closest to the enemy. So 5 and 6. In this case, I rolled a 6, so the guy this Japanese unit started here, closest to the Indians down there. It's just a way of randomising it, so I don't really know what's going to come, and I know what units might come onto the table, but I don't know where exactly they're going to come on. So obviously they're all in jungle, nobody can see each other, so there's no firing, so it's over to the Guahalis' turn anyway. And the Indians, let's see what they get. So that's 2 chain of command points, so that's taken them now up to 4. That's pretty good going. We also have a 1, 2 and a 3, so that's quite a spread. We could combine some of these, like the 1 and the 3, into getting Cummings to move his men forward as well, urging them on and using up a section as well. So I'll have a think about that and see what we can do. So this was a pretty simple move. I used a 2 to get this section to move up through the jungle here, whilst Cummings organised the guys advancing down the road and pushed them forward a little bit further. So he he ordered 3 of them, and then used up his final command to move himself and his adjutant. So they're kind of staying in the centre with these chaps here as well, trying to keep them bunched together so they've got a bit of a defence if they do get attacked. And the Japanese, don't forget that they've got a section already on the table. So they have now got 2 more chain of command dice points. So that's up to 4. The 6 does nothing on its own, but they have a 2 and a 1. So that's either a junior leader, a section, or a team, or together a junior leader. So I'll have a little think about what they want to bring on. Right, so the Japanese split their dice, and they brought on an infantry section who arrived at the back end of the table. They also brought on a team of a medium machine gun, tripod mounted medium machine gun with 4 crew and a junior leader. This appeared at this jumping off point, and because things get to fire as soon as they appear, it will fire straight away at the closest Indian unit, which are these guys here. This section, it's rolling 10 dice, if I could actually keep the dice in my hands, rolling 10 dice, 4, 5, 6 are hits. Ouch, that is a lot of hits. That's 9 hits. And they are, I was saying they're in light cover because they're firing out of the jungle, through the jungle into them. They're not on the edge of the jungle, they're in the middle of it, but it's not heavy cover because they're not in jungle. So, with that in mind, a 6 is a kill, 4 or 5 is a shock. This could be quite nasty for the Indians. It is quite nasty for the Indians. So we've got 1, 2, 4 killed, and we said 4, 5 is shock. So everything else is shock. My God, that's 5 shock, 4 killed. Let's see if the leader is killed, their junior leader. 4. Yes, he has been hit. He's one of the casualties. So let's just see what happens to him. We re-roll again, and he, on a 1 he's killed, on a 2 or a 3 is wounded, and cannot activate for the rest of the turn. On a 4 to 6 he's lightly wounded and reduces his activations by 1. So 2 is he is wounded. He can't be activated for the remainder of this turn then. So that's a bit of a shame for those guys. But let's put the shock on them, take off their casualties, and it's over to Guahalis. That's not a particularly nice turn up. Well, after that devastating turn, let's have a look, see what the Guahalis can get. Oh, not great, but they have got 3 chain of command points. So that gives them a full chain of command dice and a extra point. So that might be useful to end the turn to get their junior leader moving again. They've also got 2 1s, which is either a 2 teams or a section. Just before we roll the Guahal rifles though, well, let's do the bad things happen. I did forget. Their junior leader being wounded, in 1 or a 2 there's no effect, 3 or 4 they get a -1 point on their morale, and 6 they get 2 points off their morale. So 4, that brings them down to 10 points on their morale. Right, so the Indians used a chain of command dice to end the turn, so that allows their junior leader to move at least. But they also use their section. They combine the 2 1s, turn into a section, and they're firing with this section at the Japanese rifles. Now they're firing with 4 rifles and a box-fed LMG, so that's 10 dice in total, but they've got to take 5 off because they have 5 shock. We're hoping to get rid of that at some point in the future, but at least they're rolling 5 dice. 4, 5, 6 are hits, and that's 2 hits on the Japanese. In this case, the Japanese are actually in heavy cover because they're firing into the jungle, not out of it. So 6 is a kill, 5 is shock. So 1 shock on the Japanese machine gun. Not brilliant, but at least they fired back at them. The Japanese, there they go. So let's see what they get. That's 2 chain of command points. The 6 is nothing, so they've now got a chain of command dice, and a 3 and a 1. So that's a junior leader and a team. I wonder which team is going to fire. They could also spend a chain of command dice as well to maybe do an ambush or something. But let's have a think about it and see what they do. I just realised that the Wahalis took too many dice off their firing. They should have only taken 2 dice off. You take 1 dice off firing for every 2 shock you've got. They got 5 shocks, so they should have only taken 2 dice off. So I just rolled them. They did hit with 1 dice and they caused 1 shock on the Japanese. Hasn't affected anything yet, but it's given the Japanese 2 shock instead of their previous 1 shock. So the Japanese have used their team score to open fire again with the MMG on the same Wahali unit, so we'll roll them. They now have 2 shocks, so instead of rolling 10 dice, they're rolling 9 dice. So we'll see how many hits we get. 4, 5, 6 are hits. Less this time at least. So that's 6 hits. So we re-roll those, and they're again in light cover, so 6 is a kill, 4, 5 shock. So let's have a look. So that's 2 more kills and 1 more shock. So let's just put that shock on first of all. So that goes from 5 now to 6. And they've got 2 kills. Let's see if their junior leader is one of them, a 1 or a 2, and he is. No, he's not this time, so it's just 2 of their other riflemen. We've also spent the Japanese chain of command dice. They've spent that, and they brought on a team of an LMG and 2 rifles who are going to ambush this unit over here. They're firing with a box-fed LMG, 6 dice, plus the 2 rifles, so they are firing in the open. 4, 5, and 6 is a hit. That's 2 hits, and in the open, a 5 or a 6 is a kill. 3, 4 is a shock, so they've only taken 1 shock. So actually, that's not as bad as they wanted. The Japanese can now decide whether they want to leave that unit on the table, or if it wants to disappear off again to join back up with its parent unit. Right, the Indians now, they definitely need to get their units moving forward. They really can't be waiting around where they are, because they're just getting cut to pieces. The Japanese ambush has disappeared back into the jungle, so at least it's still open. So let's have a look at what they've got. 6 on its own does nothing. They really needed a second 6 there. They do get a second chain of command point, and they've got their leader, which they need, and 2 sections. So that's pretty good actually. That's not a bad turnout. So let's get them moving up that road. The Indians have managed to get a little bit further forward with their command dice. They've also recovered a bit of shock on this unit as well, and they moved forward these 2 sections through the jungles here to hopefully try to clear out this Japanese section that's on this side, and maybe even close down the Japanese jumping off point as well, because that's still going to be in play. If they can be within 4 inches of it for a turn, then it disappears and it closes down one of the Japanese attack points. So we'll crack on with the Japanese, see what they get. Right, Japanese dice. They're 6, nothing. 3 senior leaders and 1 junior leader. That's not brilliant, but they may bring on a senior leader at this point. The Japanese have brought on a senior leader. I diced for him and he turned up here at the number 1 jumping off point. Their junior leader, one of their 3s, it was this guy. He's reduced the shock by 1, and then he's getting the team to fire. So they're now firing again on full action. So 10 dice at the section here. Oh, sorry, I kicked the thing there. So I need 4, 5s, and 6s of hits. We'll get rid of the misses. That's 5 hits. And light cover again, so 6 kills. So that's 2 more shock. on that unit. So that takes them up to 7. The Indian force morale is still on 10, so they're okay, but they didn't lose those 2 points I thought they had done. Anyway, let's see what they get for their rolls. So we've got a 5 is 1 chain of command point, so that's now 3. They've also got 2 3s, a 1 and a 2, so that's quite a few junior leaders, or they could up that to a senior leader. Right, let's get back on the table. Right, with those dice, what we've done is we've given the section dice over to these guys. They're going to fire at the Japanese in the jungles over there. We've also given Cummings give him a senior leader command, and he reduced their shock right down by 4. And then I gave the other junior leader over here another point, and he reduced their shock by another 1. And then he's getting them to fire at the Japanese machine gun. So they've only got 2 shock now. So let's see, we've got 6 for the box fed LMG, and then we've also got 3 rifles firing, but minus 1 because of the shock that they've got 2 shock. So we're rolling now a 4, 5, 6 as a hits. Don't really want to get bogged down in a firefight with the Japanese at this point, but I think this machine gun is worthwhile hammering just while they're reducing their shock. So they've hit 3. Let's see what that happens. They are in heavy cover. 6s are kills, 5s are shock. No hits at all. Pretty useless there. These guys over here are firing. They're firing again into heavy cover because they're firing into the jungle. So we are firing with 6 dice for their box LMG, and then they also have another 6 infantry and 6 rifles, and they're firing them there. So their shock is only 1, so that doesn't reduce any. 4, 5s and 6s because they're at close range, so that's quite heavy fire. So I'm more bothered about clearing these out than the machine gun really at this point, just so we can actually get these guys moving up further into the table. And again, 6s are kills, 5s are shock. So we have 4 shock and 1 kill. Let's just see if the junior leader is the one who's affected by that kill. No, he's not. So 1 infantryman and 4 shock for the Japanese there. Rightio, back to the Japanese. They have got a spread. 6 is nothing. 2 senior leaders and a 2 and a 1, so that's a section and a team. The Japanese are getting their senior commander to reduce the shock of the machine gun team, and then again get them to fire at the section in front of them. All 10 dice. 4, 5, 6 as a hits. Remove those misses. That's 5 hits. They never had anything as good as that first turn when they literally opened up first off, and they nearly hit with all 10 hits. So let's have a look. 6s kills, 4, 5 shock. So 1 kill, 2 shock. So I'll put the shock back up to 4. That's what I remember. So there's 4 and 1 kill. Let's see if it's their junior leader. It is. We roll again. 1 he's killed outright. 2 or 3 he is wounded. He is lightly wounded, so he has his actions reduced by 1. He'd already got 1, so he's actually been killed, I think. Yes, that takes his initiatives down to 0, so that has actually killed him, taken him out. And that unit is now pinned as well because their shock is higher than their number of units. Number of figures in there. On this side we've got the Japanese junior leader. He's reduced their shock from 3 down to 4, 4 down to 3, and then they're firing at the section which fired at them. They've got a box LMG in there, so they're firing 16 dice in total. So they're looking for 4, 5, 6s. This is not looking good for them. Yeah, this is looking pretty poor, in fact. 4 hits. See what they do. They're in light cover because they're firing out of the jungle at them. And that's one shock. So they've already got one shock, so that takes them up to 2. Very poor firing there from the Japanese. Okay, just before I take the next Indian turn, let's just have a quick look at the situation as it is on the board. So the Indians have managed to move approximately about a third of the way up the road at this point. They've been held up by this medium machine gun on the side. They really need to get past that or destroy it. And they've also come into contact with another Japanese section over here as well. The Japanese so far have only got 3 units on. So they've got the section over there, they've got the medium machine gun here in the jungle, but then they've also got another section kicking about up in the jungle up here waiting to ambush. So it's still far from over, but we'll just see where we go from here. And over to the next Indian turn. Right, Indian command dice. Gonna need some good ones for this. Let's have a look. We have 2 5s, so that gives them another chain of command points. 2 chain of command points, should I say. The 6 does nothing, but they have a 3 and a 2 and a 1. So they might be able to do something with that. Junior leader or a section and a team. Okay, for the Indians, I've given this junior leader the dice, turn it into a 3, a 2 and a 1 into a 3. He's reduced shock there with a 1, and then he's getting the rest of the team to fire across, the rest of the section to fire across at the Japanese here. I was thinking about maybe pushing them forward, but I'm trying not to split up the Indians at this point because I want them to retain their strength by staying together. So I'll wait till I get a better dice score to move them forward. So they're firing. They need 4 5s, so short range. 4 5 6s, sorry, short range. So there might be. There's quite a few hits there. 6 hits. Firing into heavy cover though, so 6 is a kill, 5 is a shock. So that's cocked. Just re-roll that one. So that's 2 shock. They've already got 3, so let's put them up to 5. Right, the Japanese. They are 6. Get rid of that. 5 gives them 1 chain of command dice points, so that's 1. So we can get rid of that now. So we've now got junior leader and 2 1s. So we might be able to do something with those. Probably fire that medium machine gun again. Right, the first one we're using the 2 for this section. They're going to fire back at the Indians there. They've got a box-fed LMG and 9 rifles, but -2 for their shock. So we're 4 5 6s of hits. Let's pick out all the misses so we can see what we've got, and that is 5 of hit back. So roll on those. They're in light cover because they're firing out of the jungle. So 6s are kills, 4s and above are shock. So 1 shock. So about as good as the Indians gave them. Like for like. And the other activation for the Japanese is the guy over here with the medium machine gun firing at the same unit again. 10 dice. 4 5s are hits. Not so good this time, so that's only 4 hits. Light cover again, so 6 kills, 4 5 shock. But that's 2 kills and 1 extra shock as well, so they are now on 5 shock. They've lost 2 of their men, so that means that unit is broken for sure this time, so I'll remove those 2. So they will now retreat 3d6, and that is 10 inches back to take them off the table. No, it doesn't, but we do have to roll on the bad things happen table because of them breaking. So they're facing away. They can recover if they can end a turn, but right now I don't think that's going to happen. So I think we've lost 1 section. So we turn to the bad things happen table. When a section breaks, on a 1 or a 2 they lose 1 point. Anything above that they lose 2 points on their force morale. So we're looking for, there you go, 2 points off the Indians. So that now drops them down to 8 points. Right, the Indians, let's see what they get. 6, nothing. Senior leader, which is useful. 3 junior leader, and 2 a section. That's quite a good spread. So they may be able to do something. I think we're going to have to forget that section, that single man who's disappearing off table, and start getting the other ones moving up now as quick as we can. The Indians managed to move their core of their units further forward along with the commander Cummings. They got this section up. Unfortunately, they could only get as far as being right in the line of fire of the MMG. Hopefully that won't open fire this turn. They've also managed to get these 2 sections a bit further forward. This one is now in spotting distance of the the Japanese unit, but was unable to fire because it used all its movement for its dice for movement. And finally, those guys are still running away. They, at the end of the turn, they will disappear unless they rally. The chance of them rallying is going to be low, very low. We're almost halfway up the table at least with these guys, so some of these units may be able to get off the table. Just depends how many more Japanese turn up at the end of the back end of this jungle here. Alright, Japanese. So what we got? Ooh, 2 6s. That means they retain the phase. Senior leader and a 1 and a 2. So that's either a team and a section or a junior leader. So they may bring something else on now that the Indians are starting to push up that table. So rather than do any of the sections on the table, the Japanese elected to bring on another section, also a medium machine gun as their team, but they appeared at the back end of the table, so that's going to be a nasty thing to get past up there. This section has appeared and will open fire at the goal while he's there. So let's have a look. Our usual 4, 5, 6s are hits. And so that's 6 hits. These are in the open because the Japanese are on the cover, on the edge of the cover. So it's 5 6s kills now. So that's 2 kills and 2 shock. So let's put that shock on before I check who has been killed. We'll see if our junior leader has been killed, a 1 or a 2, and he has. Yes, oh, he's been injured at least. 1, he's killed. 2, 3, he's wounded. He's lightly wounded, so that means he has been reduced down to 1 activation. And we've lost another casualty in there as well. And the Japanese used their activation with the senior leader for him to get this MMG opening up on these guys here as well. So 4, 5, 6 are the hits. At least these ones are in light cover. That's only 3 hits. So let's just see what the effect of that is. In light cover, oh, that's 2 kills. So that's not great. And re-roll to see if it's the junior leader. 1 or a 2 it is. It is. Let's see what happens to him. 1 he's killed outright. So he's lightly wounded as well. So that's 2 junior leaders with only 1 activation now. And 1 infantryman killed as well. And it's a Japanese second turn now, their second phase of this turn. So we've got 6, so it goes back to the Guajalis anyway. So they get 1 chain of command point, and they've got 2 1s and a 2. So they can probably do some damage with that as well with their sections. So let's have a look at what they do. Right, the Japanese have used one of their sections to attack the Guajalis in the road. They've got, I think, 11 or something dice. I just worked it out. So 6, 9, 10, 14, I think it is there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 dice. Close. And 5s and 6s. 6s are shock as well. 5s and 6s are kills. So that's 3 kills, of which 2 shock as well. So let's just work that out. Just put those by the Indians so I remember. And the Indians fight back. And they have killed 2 Japanese. But caused no shock. So the result of that So the Indians have lost by 1, so they're thrown back 6 inches. But let's just take their hits. They've had 3 kills and they're 2 shock, so we put their shock up. It's now on 6. They lose 3. Let's see if it's their junior leader. No, it's not. So it's 3 infantry, so we'll remove those 3. And they're thrown back 6 inches. So they're back down the road. Taking their shock with them. They've got 4, 5 figures in there, 6 shocks, so they're okay at the moment. The Japanese have only taken 2 hits. Let's see if one of them is a junior leader. Yes, it is. A 1, he's killed. 5, he is lightly wounded, so he takes 1 hit. And they also lose 1 man from the rest of the section. And over on this side we've got the Japanese section. The second section is firing at the Indians in the jungle. They're now in heavy cover because they're in the jungle. But let's see if we can hit them first. That's an awful lot of hits from the Japanese. This is turning into quite a struggle for these Indians. They really need to get past these points and just get moving up that road, I think. Let's see how many hits they take. They're in heavy cover, so 6 of the kills, 5 shock. That's a lot. Let's just get rid of some of these ones so I can see what we've got. 2 shock, 3 kills. They've got a junior leader in there. Let's see if he is also hit. 5, no he's not. So it's 3 infantry. But they also have 2 shock on there as well. Well, the poor Indians took a hammer in that turn, so let's see if they can pull anything back. What have we got? A chain of command points, so that's at least they've got a chain of command dice. They've also got senior leaders and 2 junior leaders. That's not too bad. Might be able to get them moving a little bit. Right, the junior leader over here has reduced shock on that team, on that unit, that section. So they're down to 1, and then he's getting them to fire at the Japanese over there. Heavy cover again. 4, 5, 6 are hits. So we've got 5 hits, and 6 are kills, 5's a shock. So that's 1 shock, 1 kill. Let's see if it's their junior leader. It is their junior leader. Let's see if he's killed. He is killed outright, so that's a bad things happen table for the Japanese. So let's just give that a quick roll, see what happens to their morale. Junior leader killed. 1, 2, 3, minus 1 point. 4, 5, 6, minus 2 points. So that's minus 2 points to the Japanese. They're now down to 8, the same as the Indians, and they've lost that junior leader and taken a shock. Meanwhile, the rest of the Indians have basically forced themselves past these Japanese. They're skirting outside of their range of close assault. They're pushing up as much as they can. These guys have all moved out of the double, so they've taken shock, they've taken shock, they've taken another shock, and they've taken shock as well. These guys have now moved out of line of sight of the MMG at least, which is in those trees behind, so they can't see them. This terrain is blocking terrain, so they're now way beyond where that MMG, so at least that stopped being an issue. We've still got another one up there, and they're still only about halfway across the table at this point. Right, Japanese turn. They have 2 5s, so they're now on 4 chain of command points. They have a junior leader, a team and a section, or a combination of that. So let's see what happens with that. Right, Japanese have got a couple of things they're doing. They're using the 1 to activate their medium machine gun, light machine gun in this unit here. It's got a team of light machine gun and 2 rifles, so there's the 2 rifles. They also have 6 from the box-fed LMG. However, they have half of the shock of the entire section, so that comes down to takes off 1 dice. So they're firing at the Indians here. 4, 5, 6 are hits. That's only 3 hits. and they're in heavy cover, 6 as a kills, so nothing. The Japanese infantry have unsheathed their swords and they're going in for the attack again on these guys, but it means all of these Indians can now fight back. They have caused 4 kills, sorry. So we'll just sort those out in a second. The Indians are firing back. They've got a lot more dice than the Japanese have in this case. The Japanese may come off worse in this one, but they are basically driven to attack as much as they can. So let's see what happens here. 5s and 6s again. Mind you, it's not looking great. Well, get rid of all the misses. All these are pulling out more than I'm leaving in by the looks of things. Couple more there we go. How many hits is that? Let's see how many kills. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 kills. So that is, I think that's the entire Japanese unit wiped out. 2, 4, no, apart from 2. But they will break on that. So the Japanese are definitely knocked back. Right, so the Japanese will flee in disorder, 18 inch. So the remaining 2 infantry are basically stuck in the jungle somewhere over here. Let's just see. Well, one of them has to be the leader, so he's taken out. They take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shock on them, so that will break them because there's only 2 of them. So they're all off. Now let's have a look through these the hits here. So they've taken 3 shock on the 2 different units there. So let's put those on first of all. So they will go up to 3. And they will go up to 5. Which 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 enough not to break them yet, but let's see. Of the 4 kills, let's see if Cummings is one of them. No, he's not. Let's see if his 2 IC is. No. Let's see if the first Indian there is. He is. He can't take any more hits, so he is automatically killed. So that's one of them. Say that to remind me. The second Indian, Junior, he is not one of the casualties. So 3 casualties come off from the rest of the units there. So between them we'll put 1 casualty on these guys and then 2 onto these. So we'll remove those and that will take 1 hit there, which unfortunately means they are now pinned until they can bring their morale down, their shock, should I say. So not a great outcome there for the Japanese. They have to do a bad things happen roll. So do the Indians because they've lost 1 junior leader. So let's do the Indians first of all. Junior leader killed, 1 to 3, -1, 4 to 6, -2 on their force morale. So -1 on their force morale. They're now on 7. The Japanese have not only lost their leader, he's been killed. Well, actually, we never checked, did we? Let's see what happens with the Japanese leader. 3, he is wounded. So that's a junior leader wounded. So that is no effect. But they had a section break, and that is 1 or a 2, -1 point. Anything above is -2 points. So they get a -1 point as well. So they're also on 7 on their force morale. Right, back with the Indians. They spent one of their chain of command dice at the start of the Japanese turn, and they basically bombed one of their sections almost to the edge of the end of the table. So fingers crossed they might be able to get them off this turn. Let's see, 6, we ignore that. They get a chain of command points back. They're 5. They've got 4 and 2 2s. So that's 2 sections and a senior leader. Right, the Indians are firing with this section at the Japanese here. See what they do. That's a goodly number of hits, I think, there. 4, 5, 6. Reroll these. Again, they're in hardcover, so 6s are kills. So that's 1 kill, but no shock. So that doesn't affect their morale just yet. Right, let's take a look at the situation at this point. So we've still got these 2 Indian sections stuck towards the back end of the table. They're fighting with this Japanese section here that just don't seem to be able to budge. Unfortunately, we've got the Indian section that was destroyed practically by the MMG that is still retreating. That will disappear at the end of a turn. The Japanese MMG now has no targets it can fire at. The rest of the Indians and Cummings himself are stuck here in the centre. Cummings has just has just taken their morale down on both of those sections. However, all the way up at the end of the road is this section of Indians here. They are so close to getting off that table edge now. They just need maybe 1 or 2 more moves and they're off. But there is a Japanese machine gun in that woodland, and there's also a fresh section there as well. So it's going to be a bit difficult to get the rest of these past that point there unless they go through the jungle. But then if they do, they're quite close to this Japanese jumping off point here as well. Right, Japanese are rolling. Let's see, a 5, so they have chain of command points. They have a 1, a 2, a 3 and a 4. So that's not too bad. That means they might be able to get quite a bit done this turn. Right, the Japanese have brought on an MMG here on the edge of the jungle. Another nest. Because it hasn't moved, I'm allowing it to fire. Normally these things shouldn't be able to move and fire, but it's just to make it even harder for the Indians. That is firing at the front section. We've also got this, they brought on a section of infantry who will be firing across the entire lot of them, but they will do the MMG first of all. This is including Cummings in the fire. 4, 5, 6 are hits. That is 4 hits. Let's see what happens. These are in the open now. So that's 2 shock. Actually, that's not actually bad at all. They got off pretty lightly with that. But let's have a look at what happens with these guys. They've got 10 infantry and a box-fed LMG. So that's 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 infantry. And then another 6 for the LMG. Same again, 4, 5, 6s. This is looking a little bit worse. Just pluck everything out. So they've ended up with 2, 4, 6, 7 hits spread across those 2 units. Let's see how many kills. 4, 5, 6s are kills on this. Only 1 kill at least, and 1 shock. So relatively lightly got off there. So let's just put that shock on and let's see who has been killed. Let's see if that junior leader is the guy who's been killed. Nope. Is it coming? He's been hit. Oh my god, this could be bad. Let's see. 1 is killed outright. 2 or 3 he is heavily wounded. 5 or 6 he's lightly wounded. So at least he now has a command initiative of 3. Oh my god. He was actually wounded in the battle, but with bayonet stabs in the stomach. With Cumming being hit and wounded, that's a roll on the bad things happen table. Let's see, we get a 1 to 4, it's minus a point. 5, 6, it's minus 2.6, so that's another 2. Ooh, they're just hovering above the critical point right now, the Indians. But it's their turn anyway. Let's see what they can do. And we've got 6, nothing, chain of command points. and senior leader, junior leader, and a section. Right, the Indians, they reduced some shock over here with their junior leader, but then Cummings also ordered everybody to shift out the double up here. They literally stumbled their way forward. They're still in line of fire from the Japanese infantry and this back section from the machine gun. Cummings is out of the way of the MMG at least, but still within fire from the rest because of that roadblock. And they gave their section order to this section over here, who are going to try to make it off the edge of the table. They're moving at the double. They've got 2 shocks, so it's -2 on their dice anyway. So let's see, that's 11, 12, 13, 14, -2 is 12 inches off, and they have just made it off the table. So at least one section has escaped. They managed to get through. So that's maybe a sixth of the original force. Right, well, with the Indian section managing to get off, it's the Japanese turn now. They have they hold on to the turn. They get a chain of command points. That puts that up to 6. So a team and a senior leader as well can also activate. Right, so the Japanese have used their 4 on their senior leader to bring the MMG forward. It can't move on fire, so they've just brought it out onto the road a bit. They're using their team activation to activate the other MMG to hopefully open fire and rake that rear section. So 10 dice, 4 5s and 6s are hits. So that's 2, 4, 6 hits. They're in the open. 5 6s are kills. So what we got? 1, 2 kills, 3 kills, and there are only 3 men left in there. So that's destroyed that section. So that's another roll on the bad things happen table for the Indians. A section is wiped out. 1 to 3 -1 point. 4 to 6 -2 points. So let's see. -1 point. So they're now down onto 4. Of their force morale, and they have lost this section. Oh dear, things are not going well. And the Japanese back to their turn again because they retain the phase. So we've got 6, does nothing, another chain of command points. They should be spending some of these at some point. And they've got a junior leader, a team, and a senior leader as well. Right, the Japanese have moved their medium machine gun further forward. Can't fire because it's stuck there, but they're using their team dice score to fire the medium machine gun over there. Now they're firing down through the column of burning vehicles, so I'm going to give them light cover if they hit. But they are 18-inch range, so they're 4 5 6s to hit anyway. So 1, 2, 3 hits. So those 3 hits, 6 is a kill, 4 5 is shock. So 1 kill and 2 shock. So we'll put the shock straight up so we don't forget. So that's now on 6. So they're not yet pinned, but they're close to it. And we've got 1 kill. So let's see if it's coming. No. See if it's his adjutant. No. See if it's the junior leader. No, so it's just one of the Indian squaddies, but that now means that they are pinned. I'll put a pinned marker on them, unfortunately. And we now have the rifles firing at them, so there's 3, 6, 9, 10, 11. This was using a junior leader, so he can chuck his rifle in as well. 12. 11 rifles and a box machine gun, so we need 11 dice, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, plus the box machine gun. Same again, these guys are firing at them. I'm going to give them, again, I think light cover just because of the fact that they're quite close to those roadblocks, and there's a lot of smoke and burning coming out of there, but Reroll that, it's cocked. So that's another hit, so we go 1. Let's get rid of... That's a lot worse. This may see the end of the Indians here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hits. So I said light cover, 6 of the kills, 4, 5 shock. Okay, so that's 3 kills and 1,000,000 shock. Now how many is it? 6 shock, so that's broken that unit, whatever. So let me just quickly stick that on so we remember that. And 3 kills. Now let's go through the leaders, see if it's them. So we've got Cumming, he's one of the hits. His adjutant, he isn't. The junior leader, he is, so he's taken off because he can only take 1 more hit anyway. And so that's 1 more hit on the Indian themselves. Then Cumming, see what happens to him. 1, he's killed outright. 6, he is wounded again. So he takes another wound, dropping his initiative to 2. So that means they are broken because they can't get any worse than that. They've only got 3 men left. They've taken, oh god, 12 shock. They are going to surrender because they are surrounded. There's a Japanese jumping off point over there. There's no way they can get through this. So they will surrender. That means they have lost Cummings as well. So this is now a roll on the bad things happen. Let's see what does happen here. So it's basically a section breaks, and the senior leader is wounded, a junior leader is killed. Well, let's have a look. Work our way through them. Section breaks, first of all. 3, so that's 2 points off. The junior leader killed is 1 point off. They're now on 1 force morale, and the senior leader being wounded, well, they're going to lose it anyway, so it's 2 straight down to that, takes them down by 1. That reduces them to 0, and unfortunately the end of the game for the Indians. They managed to get 1 section off, but everything else really stalled. I'll just show you what the table looks like on this last turn, and we'll sum up. So first of all, the Japanese reduced the Indians to 0 on their force morale. They still had a chain of command point they could have used. The couple of Indian sections were still fighting it out in the jungle here, unable to shift past that Japanese section. These guys still broken, waiting for them to just disappear on the next turn. We had the 2 machine guns, medium machine guns, and a section, and another medium machine gun, and another section basically surrounding Cumming and his remaining Gwali rifles there, who had just broken. But there was at least one who was able to get off the table, 1 section. So there we have it, another great game of Chain of Command. I was rooting for the Indians, you may have noticed. Obviously tried to get through. I was hoping that a few more than what did get through would have got through. Unfortunately, their force morale collapsed and they were unable to get any further forward. I think the thing that probably bogged them down from a point of view was actually fighting with the Japanese. In this case, I should have really just pushed them forward and got them off the table and just finished it at that. However, lessons learned for next time. This has been quite an enjoyable little scenario, something a bit different for Chain of Command. It just, kind of made it up on the fly, and I think it worked very well. Very well as a solo game, if you play the Japanese as aggressive as possible and just keep them coming, and then also just keep putting on units. And really, I didn't actually put any more units on than you would normally have in a Chain of Command game. So there was 4 Japanese sections on the table and 3 MMGs, maybe a little bit over-egged with the MMGs, but from a defence point of view, I think reasonable amounts of firepower on the table. I I don't know if there's anything else I've really got to say about that. Really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please hit the subscribe button. Check out Breaking Ground Heritage and their Just Giving page in the description. Please, like I say, just give a few quid. Anything will do. It's just going to help them weather through the lockdown period. And, you know, they do great work for veterans. Thank you for watching. And keep watching for more solo AARs in the future, as lockdown probably will continue for a while.